Imagine you're looking at, like, a physical map of the world.
Okay.
You see all those heavy dark lines separating the countries.
Right. The borders.
Exactly. Now imagine trying to move $1 million in physical cash across just one of those lines. You are immediately dealing with days of delays, mountains of paperwork, a whole army of middlemen who all want to take their little cut.
Oh, yeah. And you need explicit permission from multiple governments to even do it.
Yes. And that friction isn't an accident. It is, there by design.
Right. I mean, it's a financial system built entirely on physical boundaries and, well, legacy trust. And because of that, it is incredibly slow and highly controlled.
But then you step into the world of decentralized finance. You look at a digital map, and suddenly those heavy black lines just vanish.
They're just gone.
Completely gone. $1 billion can move across the globe in seconds for pennies on a Sunday at 3 a.m., no permission required.
Which is just wild when you think about it.
It really is. And today our mission is to explore the mind of the man who arguably capitalized on that frictionless environment better than anyone else in history.
Oh, absolutely.
We are unpacking the methods, the massive rise, the very public fall, and, well, the return of Changpeng Zhao, who is widely known as CZ.
The founder of Binance.
Right, the founder of Binance. We're drawing from a massive, really comprehensive interview he did on the PBD podcast, where he opened up about, like, everything, from his early days as a standard IT guy to becoming a Senate billionaire to his time in a U.S. federal prison and his vision for the future of AI.
And for anyone listening, this really isn't just a story about technology or lines of code. It is a total masterclass in risk tolerance, the realities of trying to run a borderless business, and what exactly happens when an unstoppable digital force collides head-on with, the immovable object of global geopolitics.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand the billionaire, we actually have to go back and look at the foundation of his mindset. We have to look at an incredibly high-stakes decision he made when he was just like an ordinary guy working in tech.
Yeah, it really is the ultimate origin story of a calculated risk. I mean, to set the stage for you, CZ was born in a rural Chinese village, moved to a city at age 10, and then immigrated to Canada when he was 12.
So right away, extreme adaptability is baked into his DNA from childhood.
Exactly. He goes on to study at McGill University in Montreal, though he didn't actually graduate, right? And he ends up working in IT. Eventually, he lands a very solid, highly respectable gig building trading systems at Bloomberg in New York City.
Which is a very comfortable, very safe trajectory.
Oh, very safe.
But then comes 2013, he's at a friendly poker game, and a buddy starts talking about this new thing called Bitcoin.
As you do at a poker game in 2013.
Right, so CZ starts looking into it, he installs his own wallet, makes a test transaction, and just has this immediate lightning bolt realization. He decides, right then and there, that this technology is going to be bigger than the internet itself.
And what's fascinating is that he acts on that conviction with a level of commitment that most rational people would find completely terrifying.
Terrifying is putting it mildly. I mean, think about this. He owned an apartment worth roughly $900,000.
Wow.
He sells it, he takes all that cash, and dumps it directly into Bitcoin. At the time, I think the average price was around $600 a coin.
Yeah, around there.
Now, yes, that investment alone eventually turned into over $100 million. But he didn't just sell his house. He also quit his incredibly comfortable, well-paying job to go work for a tiny, unproven crypto startup.
It's a massive leap.
I really have to push back here, though. If a friend came up to you tomorrow and said they sold their house to buy magic internet money and quit their corporate job, you would hold an intervention.
Oh, 100%.
Right. Was this not just reckless gambling? It sounds exactly like pushing all your chips in on a single roulette spin.
Well, it absolutely looks like a roulette spin from the outside. But this is where CZ's fundamental philosophy on risk comes into play. Because he argues that risk is not defined by the action itself. Risk is defined by your individual circumstance.
Wait, meaning what exactly? That his circumstance made losing almost $1 million fine.
It's about his specific skill set. He was a highly capable software engineer who intimately understood global financial trading systems.
Right.
He looked at his situation and realized that if Bitcoin went completely to zero and he lost every single penny of that house money, His tech skills were so sharp and so in demand that he could easily just walk back into Wall Street and get another lucrative job.
Oh, I see.
He didn't actually need that 900,000 tall to maintain his baseline survival. So the core lesson here is that true risk tolerance doesn't come from blind faith or having a massive bank account. It comes from having an incredibly marketable fallback skill.
So his real safety net wasn't the cash.
Exactly. His safety net was his own competence.
That reframes it entirely. It's not a reckless roulette spin if you literally own the skills to go work in the casino the next day.
Exactly.
And that exact same unshakable confidence in his tech skills is what led him to launch his own platform, Binance, in 2017.
Yeah.
And man, the way he built that company, he broke every traditional rule of corporate growth.
He essentially redefined the concept of blitzscaling.
Right, because let's look at how Binance actually started. He goes to traditional venture capitalists, the big VCs, to raise money for his new crypto exchange. And they all reject him.
Every single one.
They tell him the exchange space is already way too crowded. So what does he do? He bypasses the traditional gatekeepers entirely and launches an ICO, an initial coin offering. He raises $15 million directly from the crypto community using nothing but a white paper.
And we should probably clarify what that actually means mechanically for those listening.
Yeah, I was going to say, is an ICO basically like Kickstarter? Like, instead of giving a company money and waiting 6 months for a cool new backpack, you give them money and they send you a newly minted digital token.
That is a perfect analogy. He essentially crowdfunded the startup, but instead of a backpack, backers received Binance Coin, or BNB.
Right.
The pitch was basically, hey, help me build this exchange, and if you use this token on our platform in the future, we'll give you a massive discount on your trading fees.
And because the platform exploded in popularity, the value of those tokens skyrocketed.
Oh, absolutely. For some of those early backers, that initial investment yielded a 4,100x return.
That is, wait, $1,000 turns into over $4 million.
Yeah, it's just staggering.
And the growth trajectory of the actual business was completely unprecedented, too. Binance reached $1 billion in profit, and that's profit, not just top-line revenue in a single year.
Though, I mean, the physical toll of that first year sounds absolutely brutal.
Oh, it was pure chaos. CZ described the office as sounding like a screaming flea market. It was just buzzing with this frantic energy. He would go home at 2 a.m., shower, sleep for a few hours, and be back out the door by 6 a.m.
Wow.
Yeah. His chief technology officer actually got a severe eye infection from staring at code on screens for so long without blinking that he still requires medicated eye drops to this day.
Jeez. I mean, that is startup trench warfare.
It really is.
But amidst all that chaos, CZ implemented a masterstroke strategy that actually drove that hypergrowth. He called it the zero-fee model.
Okay, tell me about that.
Well, while all of his competitors were trying to maximize their profit margin on every single trade, Binance actively slashed fees. In some cases, their fees were 20 times lower than their biggest U.S. competitors.
I've got to ask about the mechanics of that, though.
Yeah.
If I'm providing a financial service, how do I keep the lights on if my competitors are charging $8 a trade and I'm charging practically zero?
Right, it sounds counterintuitive.
Was he basically using the core trading platform as a massive loss leader? Like, give away the basic service for free to trap the market share and then monetize something else entirely?
You hit the nail on the head. CZ refers to it as the Google model. Think about Google. They provide massive, incredibly expensive infrastructure entirely for free. Search, email, maps, all free.
Right. I don't pay for Gmail.
Exactly. Why? To build an unimaginably large user base. Then they monetize just a tiny fraction of that attention through ads. CZ's philosophy is similar. He says, provide a value of 10 to the customer, but only charge them 2.
Oh, I see.
If you give away basic trading for practically free, your system will attract millions of users. Once they are in your ecosystem, you monetize the edges.
Like what?
Withdrawal fees, VIP margin trading, institutional services, and of course, the appreciation of your own native token.
Ah, so it's a massive volume play.
Exactly. Binance was profitable enough from a tiny slice of the pie that they could afford to offer the core product practically for free. And by doing that, they captured 70% of the global market share.
70%?
Yeah. Today, they have around 300 million registered users. The insight for you here is that prioritizing massive scale and user trust over immediate margin optimization is, well, it's the ultimate modern growth hack.
And what's wild is he managed all of this mind-bending scale without a traditional corporate structure.
Yeah.
I mean, Binance is famous for its no headquarters model.
Right, which actually traces back to his time before Binance. He spent about 8 months working for a 20-year-old kid named Ben Reeves at a startup called blockchain.info.
Okay.
This 20-year-old had built a site with 20 million users. They had no physical office anywhere in the world. They had no corporate bank accounts. They just paid their 18 employees directly in Bitcoin.
That is incredible.
CZ looked at that and realized that in a truly digital economy, a physical headquarters is just an unnecessary artifact of the past. Today, Binance has 5,000 employees working entirely remotely across over 100 different countries.
But this is where the story hits a massive wall. Because when you scale a borderless, decentralized financial empire to $125 trillion in lifetime trading volume, you inevitably collide head-on with national borders and entrenched political power.
Yeah, you simply cannot ignore the legacy system forever.
Right. And that collision was spectacular, public, and incredibly messy. It really kicks off with the intense rivalry with Sam Bankman-Fried, or SBF, the founder of the competing exchange, FTX.
Which was huge news.
Massive. Let's walk through how this actually played out according to the sources. So, Binance originally invested early in FTX. They eventually turned a couple $1 million into roughly a $2 billion exit.
Not bad.
But Binance held a significant portion of that exit payout in FTX's native digital token called FTT. Now, when reports started surfacing in the media questioning FTX's actual financial health, CZ sent out a very transparent tweet announcing that Binance was going to sell off its remaining FTT tokens on the open market.
And we really need to explain why a single tweet caused a complete meltdown.
Exactly. Because if you publicly announce you're selling your stock in Apple, Apple doesn't suddenly collapse. Why did this cause a massive bank run on FTX?
Because of how FTX was artificially propping itself up. FTT was a highly illiquid token created by FTX. SBF was allegedly using that same token as collateral to borrow billions of real dollars for his hedge fund.
Oh, wow. So it was like a house of cards.
Totally. When CZ announced he was selling, the price of FTT started dropping rapidly. Once the collateral lost its value, the massive loans were suddenly underwater, triggering a catastrophic liquidity crisis. Users panicked, tried to withdraw their money all at once, and FTX simply didn't have the funds.
What was a classic bank run?
Exactly.
And SBF immediately went on the offensive. He publicly accused CZ of intentionally destroying his company, basically painting him as the ruthless bad guy of crypto. In response, CZ took to Twitter and called SBF one of the greatest fraudsters in history, accusing him of masterminding a false narrative to cover up his own missing billions.
And just to add some necessary context from our source material here, CZ actually speculates that his role in triggering this collapse put a massive target on his back.
Right, the political angle.
Exactly. The interview notes that SBF allegedly donated over $100 million to politicians, notably to the Democratic Party. CZ suggests that removing one of the party's biggest donors drew the immediate ire of the Biden administration's Department of Justice and the SEC. And, for the sake of completeness, the sources also note CZ later received a presidential pardon from Donald Trump.
Right, and it's really important to point out that we're just unpacking the timeline and the claims exactly as they were laid out in the interview. We aren't here to endorse those viewpoints, and we take absolutely no political sides regarding the Biden administration's actions, the Trump pardon, or the nature of SBF's donations. We're entirely impartial here.
Absolutely.
But looking at it purely from a business narrative, you have to acknowledge how that political friction set the stage for what happened next.
Exactly, because roughly 6 months after FTX collapsed, the DOJ and SEC cracked down incredibly hard on Binance. They accused the company of failing to maintain an adequate anti-money laundering program and violating the Bank Secrecy Act.
Wait, let's pause there. If Binance is a borderless company with no headquarters, why does the U.S. Department of Justice even have jurisdiction? And what exactly is the Bank Secrecy Act?
So the Bank Secrecy Act is essentially a U.S. law requiring financial institutions to actively help the government detect and prevent money laundering.
Okay.
And the DOJ claimed jurisdiction because Binance U.S., their American subsidiary, was interacting with U.S. citizens and the U.S. banking system. If you touch U.S. soil or U.S. dollars, the U.S. government expects you to play by their regulatory rules regardless of where your servers are actually located.
Then a hammer came down hard. Binance paid a staggering $4.3 billion fine. Because of the regulatory action, Binance US lost access to traditional US banking rails, which caused their revenue to drop by 99%.
It's brutal.
Yeah. CZ was forced to step down as CEO, and he personally served 4 months in a US federal prison. Now, the subsequent presidential pardon we mentioned did clear his felony record, which restores his fit and proper status for global financial licensing, but the damage to his tenure as the CEO of Binance was permanent.
Right.
But I want to push back on the core of the DOJ's argument for a second. The persistent narrative in the media, and a big part of the government's concern, is that Binance facilitated illicit transactions. You constantly see reports highlighting terrorist organizations like Hamas and ISIS using crypto.
Sure.
If you are intentionally building a borderless, permissionless financial system, aren't you inherently building a safe haven for the worst actors on the planet?
That is absolutely the most common assumption. But if you look at the actual data provided in the sources, it completely shatters that narrative.
Really?
Yeah. Blockchain analysis firms, and these are the exact same forensic firms utilized by U.S. intelligence agencies, report that only 0.41% of all crypto transactions are illicit.
Wait, less than half of 1%?
Less than half of 1%.
But isn't that just because traditional fiat currency has a massive, multi-trillion-dollar head start in volume? Like, if the overall fiat pie is way bigger, obviously the percentage of illicit crypto looks smaller by comparison.
It's a fair question, but it's actually a fundamental feature of the technology itself. Think about traditional fiat banking. The UN estimates that illicit transactions make up roughly 2 to 5% of global fiat volume.
Okay, so it's much higher.
It's orders of magnitude worse in the legacy system. Why? Because pallets of physical cash are untraceable. Crypto, by definition, operates on a permanent, public, blockchain ledger. Every single transaction from the beginning of time is visible to everyone forever.
Oh, I see.
It is arguably the worst possible system to use if you want to hide money from forensic accountants.
Because you're literally leaving a permanent digital receipt for every crime.
Precisely. Now, CZ's perspective is that regulators are inherently slow and reactive to this new tech. They operate on 4-year election cycles, which, interestingly, CZ actually praises as a brilliant self-correcting mechanism of the U.S. Constitution.
Yeah, that surprised me.
But the tension remains, right? You have lightning-fast, highly transparent, decentralized technology being policed by slow-moving, politically driven legacy frameworks that don't fully understand how the tech works yet.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Surviving that insane hypergrowth, the political targeting, the multi-billion-dollar DOJ fines, and actual time in a federal prison, it seems to have left CZ in this surprisingly grounded, almost philosophical state.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
When you think of a guy worth tens of billions of dollars, you immediately picture super yachts, private islands, and massive security details.
But CZ is what they call an accidental centibillionaire.
He truly is. He claims he has never even sat inside a Lamborghini. He doesn't collect expensive watches. He doesn't buy fine art. He drives a Lexus van.
A van.
A van. And why a van? Because the seats fold perfectly flat in the back, which helps him stretch out his bad back. He currently lives in a 15-year-old house in the United Arab Emirates that literally has a leaky roof in the living room.
And he plans to give 99% of his immense wealth away while he is still alive.
Right. He explicitly wants to give it all away while he's still breathing because he doesn't trust future charity boards to manage the funds properly after he dies. Honestly, he's like a monk who accidentally built a trillion-dollar casino.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. He holds the master keys to the entire financial kingdom, but he prefers to sit outside in a folding chair.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, CZ's minimalist lifestyle perfectly embodies a massive macroeconomic shift happening in the world right now.
How so?
Well, in the 1970s, around 85 to 90% of the wealth in the S&P 500 was tied to tangible assets. We're talking factories, real estate, physical inventory, oil derricks. If you were wealthy, your wealth was literally bolted to the ground.
You could touch it.
Exactly. Today, that ratio has completely flipped. Over 90% of global wealth is now tied to intangible assets. It's IP, brand value, software, AI algorithms, and crypto.
Which means the wealthy are totally 100% mobile.
Exactly. CZ values mobility and digital influence over physical hoarding. That's exactly why he chose to base himself in the UAE. It's not about buying physical trophies to show off, it's about optimizing his environment.
Right.
He knows that the UAE has practically zero street crime, it's incredibly pro-business, and it boasts a 99% missile interception rate. To him, physical security and a favorable regulatory environment are the real luxuries, not a fleet of sports cars.
And because his wealth is entirely digital, he can simply pick up and live wherever the environment treats him best. It's almost a warning shot to legacy governments. Like, you can no longer trap and overtax the creators of wealth, because the wealth is intangible. They'll just pack up their laptops and leave.
Exactly. And looking forward, CZ isn't obsessing over his past battles. He's entirely focused on the next great intangible frontier, which is artificial
Oh,
intelligence.
yeah.
He views AI as the third major technological wave of his lifetime, following the advent of the internet and the creation of blockchain.
And Binance is already putting serious money where his mouth is. They're currently spending roughly $10 million a month on AI, mostly utilizing it for complex coding tasks and customer support. But his vision for it goes way beyond just corporate efficiency.
Where does he see it going?
He predicts a near future where the global economy isn't just driven by humans working alone, but by humans amplified by thousands of personalized AI agents working for each individual.
Which brings up a fascinating philosophical debate regarding the nature of intelligence itself. The interview touched on a famous public debate between Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, and Elon Musk.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, Jack Ma argued that while computers are clever, humans are fundamentally smarter because we possess empathy, emotional intelligence, and a soul. Musk, on the other hand, argued that AI will simply surpass us in every single measurable metric, rendering human intelligence far inferior.
Where does a guy like CZ land on that spectrum? I mean, he's a tech guy through and through.
He takes a very balanced, non-binary view. He readily acknowledges that AI will soon possess vastly superior computational intelligence and problem-solving capabilities. It will outmath us.
Sure.
But he heavily doubts AI will ever develop true sentience or genuine human empathy. However, he points out a hard truth about business. The smartest person in the room rarely builds the biggest, most successful company.
That's true.
Long-term success requires EQ, fairness, the ability to read a room, and human adaptability. Therefore, he sees AI not as a replacement for humanity, but as the ultimate tool for productivity. It will accelerate drug discovery, material science, and space exploration, but humans will remain the necessary, emotionally intelligent directors of that raw computational power.
So what does this all mean? When you look at the arc of CZ's life, from a kid in rural China to a titan of digital finance, there are three massive takeaways to reflect on.
Let's hear them.
First, you have to redefine your relationship with risk. True risk tolerance doesn't mean being reckless. It means building a foundation of skills so highly valuable that failure is just a temporary setback. Second, if you want to scale a business to the moon, you have to create outsized value. Provide a value of 10, charge 2. Let the massive volume be your defensive moat. And
Okay.
third, recognize the shift in the global game. Wealth and power are no longer physical. They are intangible and borderless. Whether it's crypto or AI, the future belongs to those who aren't tied down to legacy geography.
And yet, what I find so compelling is that despite being one of the chief architects of this futuristic, borderless digital economy, CZ remains deeply fascinated by the legacy systems he's actively trying to replace.
Which leads us to a really provocative final thought. During the interview, CZ was asked a fascinating hypothetical question. If he could use his massive wealth and resources to learn the absolute truth about one historical secret, what would be?
And he didn't pick anything obvious.
No. He didn't say he wanted to know the true identity of Satoshi Nakamoto, the anonymous creator of Bitcoin. He actually prefers that remains a mystery. Instead, he said he wants to know exactly what was said behind closed doors in 1971 when U.S. President Richard Nixon unilaterally took the world off the gold standard.
He wants to know the raw, unvarnished human motivations behind the single decision to switch off physical gold-backed money and turn on the era of infinite government-controlled fiat currency.
Think about that digital map we talked about at the very beginning of this deep dive, with all those heavy black lines erased. If a man who helped invent the future of borderless digital money is still obsessing over a closed-door political meeting from 1971, perhaps the true secret to understanding the future of wealth isn't just about the technology we build. It's about understanding the human motivations of the people who currently hold the power and what it will take to finally turn the old systems off.